welcome to another healing conversation brought to you by AcousticHealth.com. My name is Loren Gailey, and today we are talking again with Rebecca and Cullen, and they communicate with Laarkmaa, a Pleiadian group of beings, a unity of one of 6 beings. I'm so very happy to welcome back Rebecca and Cullen.
Thank you, Loren.
Thank you, Loren. We're really happy to be here with you today.
Well, we've got some exciting things to talk about. First off, I'm going to tell everyone that you were hitting a few cities in the nation on a speaking tour where you're out giving the messages of Laarkmaa, and we'll talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about the changes that are taking place. My goodness, we are certainly in the shift. Wouldn't you agree?
Certainly.
Absolutely.
So what is your message as we see Japan and the pain and suffering that's going on there and how that's a positive thing?
Our Pleiadian friends, Laarkmaa, have been telling us for some time that humans are the neurological link to the Earth. And our experience is the deeper that we get involved with these communications, the more we are actually experiencing a deep and profound connection with the Earth. And what we can say is that when the big earthquake happened in Japan, the first one, Cullen and I were traveling, and we actually had an in-body experience connected with the Earth that preceded the actual event. We were traveling on an area called, what's it called, Cullen?
It's on I-5 in California. It's called the Grapevine, and it's a very big hill that goes on for a very long distance. It goes up, and then it comes down into the LA basin from the north side of LA County.
As we were driving over that particular part of Earth, I started feeling an intense cramping in the middle of my, my uterus, right in the middle of my being, and I felt heart pressure and constriction around my throat and headache pressure as if my head was being compressed and shifted somehow. And I couldn't talk, and I reached over and touched Cullen's hand, and he said, "Do you want me to do something? Do you want me to drive?" And I just said no. And we drove until we could get out of the traffic into another place and pulled over and talked about it. And he expressed and described to me that he was feeling exactly the same thing. And what we came to understand was that we were feeling the birth process, both from an interior and an exterior manner of feeling and experiencing it, both as if we were giving birth and both as if we were being born. And the understanding that came out of that is the Earth is doing what she needs to do in order to give herself a new birth to who she's going to be, and that takes many of us humans with her in the process. So there is a great pain that goes on in any birth process and a lot of chaos, but out of the birth and the chaos comes some wonderful new beginning. So what we're understanding is that whatever the Earth is doing in Japan and in other places around Chile and varying spots where we're seeing the seismic activity, is that the Earth is definitely doing what's necessary for her own ascension process, and we humans, as part of the Earth, are offering ourselves according to whatever our contract was in this process.
Well, I just find it fascinating that you were able to feel that going on. Were you able to determine the time? Was it the morning of the quake, or was it actually when the quake was on, or a few hours before or after?
Actually, we seem to have become human barometers for what's going on with the Earth in a most interesting way. What we just described to you was a precursor that we felt several days before the actual quake. But on the morning that the quake occurred,
we had no pre-understanding. We were traveling. The vehicle we were in has no radio. And we don't normally watch TV, and we usually don't listen to the radio either. So we had no forewarning that that quake was about to happen when we did have that experience, nor did we realize when the quake was actually happening that it was happening at that very precise time. And we did have a very unusual experience 2 days later. Apparently, when the quake was actually occurring, we felt a very strange, very bewildering sense of not being ourselves. We felt as though we were in an altered experience, an altered reality. And we looked at each other and commented, "Are you feeling the way I'm feeling? I'm feeling completely out of sorts." My back was spasming in a way that I've never felt before, and I believe it was like an early warning system that my back was mimicking the Earth herself in having a stretching or a movement or some kind of experience that was totally new to me. It was very unusual.
What's been going on, we've been tracking this since then, and what we are understanding is that we feel things in our field, either physically or in our emotional field or somewhere when something's going on. Cullen is deeply attuned to any type of seismic activity, volcanoes, earthquakes, that sort of thing, and he not only feels it in his field, but he also sometimes has understandings of where it's going to occur. What's happening with me is that I'm feeling the effect of solar flares. A friend of ours is a scientist, and he's connected us with a way to gauge what's going on in solar flare activity, and I can now monitor something's going on that I feel in my field, and then I can go check it and see what's happening, and it aligns every single time. Every time there's a spike in solar flare activity, I can tell it before I check it and see what's happening. So we have sort of become human barometers, and we directly attribute that to our enhanced communication that Laarkmaa brought to us in beginning our conversations with them and the other beings who are speaking from light and love through truth about helping us to expand our awareness, our abilities to communicate, and understand what is our place and our role and the transition that's occurring.
And we're talking to people around the world about this subject matter, and we're finding that many, many people around the world are having these pre-understandings, these precursors of something that they don't understand, but they realize after an event, whether it's seismic, volcanic, solar flare, that they were actually feeling something before it happened. And so many people are telling us this that we realize that many, many people on Earth are becoming more sensitive to that perceptive situation where we truly are the neurological part as humans of the planet. We are linked to what's happening physically with the planet. And we've gotten so many responses from people around the world that we know this is a human connective understanding that's happening more and more acutely as more things begin to change.
Loren, you asked how we can perceive good coming out of what's happening with Japan and other areas that are going through great trauma. And one thing that I would contribute in understanding this is that the animals have always been able to be in tune and in harmony with Earth's changes and what Earth's going to do. They know how to move out of the way if they sense a lightning strike where a forest fire is going to come or an earthquake is going to happen or a volcano is going to erupt. They know how to take care of the animal kingdom. Humans have separated themselves from nature for a very long time. And my indication of what's going on is that we are finally coming back into harmony and unity with nature so that we can participate in co-creating what we want to exist in our reality.
In the tsunami in Thailand, the elephants and all the animals left.
Yes.
And so when you guys talk about, Rebecca, when you were talking about this field and feeling it, I recall speaking with some people on March 9th, 2 days before the earthquake in Japan. I thought it was interesting that my soul family sister, Michelle Anderson, she says, wow, I just feel really out there. It's hard time grounding. I just thought it was interesting that she was kind of feeling that as well. So you guys are saying that it's just energy. How can others start to feel this energy, or how do we begin to recognize what it is?
That's a really, really good question. And as we've been watching this and listening to our Pleiadian friends and others who do communicate through us, we're getting the message that simply quieting down. Humans move at such a fast pace all the time. We're all busier than we need to be. We're all trying to crunch all of the activities and all the responsibilities that we think we have to take care of in a time that we're now finding is changing itself. Many of us are looking at time and saying, we're having difficulty taking care of everything we need in a 24-hour period. Many, many people are saying, the things I used to do, I can no longer accomplish in a single day.
Right.
The other thing that I would add to that, Loren, is Cullen's exactly right about the necessity for slowing down. But the other piece that needs to be added in is we're moving towards unity. And in understanding that, we have to recognize that everything that happens to us is not personal. So in understanding what you're feeling, you begin to recognize that something's out of order with your emotional field, or you're feeling irritable, or your physical body doesn't feel quite normal, and you stop and ask, first of all, what am I doing that I need to take responsibility for? Because responsibility cannot be escaped any longer. And once you have examined what you're doing personally, to say, what am I responsible for that could be contributing to how I'm feeling, the next place that you go is, how can this be universal? What am I connecting to and really feeling that may not belong only to me, but may belong to others? And in doing that, you're asking what the earth is trying to tell you, what the mass consciousness is trying to tell you, what's actually going on in the shift, and how are you contributing to that?
As time falls away, which we're all noticing, the sense or the element of transparency is becoming clearer and clearer, that every action we make, every thought we have, doesn't just belong to us individually. It actually broadcasts itself out in a way into the collective consciousness in a fashion that is much more magnified than it's ever been before. The energies that are available to humanity are becoming magnified, and everything we say, everything we think, everything we do is having a greater impact not only on ourselves but on everyone else and the planet herself. So what Rebecca just said is really important to understand. Everything we do impacts everything else. And